everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Romance Class podcast. Romance Class is a community of Filipino authors of romance in English. Since 2013, our community has helped over 80 authors publish over 100 books. We also have a podcast, which is what you're watching or listening to now, and it has been a space to explore more of what we can do with the books and what we can discuss with the authors. This podcast is produced by Tanya Arpa and Mina V. Esguerra. Before we start, we would like to remind everyone to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Head over to kilig.pod/YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and also click on the bell to be notified when a new video is coming up. My name is Mina V. Esguerra, my pronouns are she and her, and I'm hosting the episode today. In this episode, we will be talking about creating a romance series. This topic was requested in the Romance Class Discord, and I love the suggestion, but also think that there are several ways that we can talk about this. I also will start with defining what we mean by romance series and what exactly are we creating here. Joining me in this episode is Filipino author Ansela Corsino. We both write romance in English. When I say romance, I mean we write romance genre books. Our books feature a main romance plot and a happy ever after for the characters. When I say romance series, I'm referring to separate standalone books that feature different romance pairings but are connected to each other because maybe the characters know each other or all the books in the series have something in common, like a location. Some romance series follow the same couple through various adventures and stages in life, and we will not be talking about that today. On 2 episodes of this podcast, we will talk about how we have created standalone romance series in 2 ways. Part 1 is the series based on a location. Part 2, which is about series based on a friend group or family, will be streamed on November 20 and will feature authors Tara Frejas and J.E. Tria. Moving on to today, why would an author actually want to create a romance series composed of standalone books? Actually, some authors don't plan to do this. I didn't. What happens is we likely start writing one book, and if we did our setting and characters justice, we might actually be inspired to write more series in the same setting or more books featuring a secondary character. Sometimes the author and the readers want more, and suddenly we're writing a series. Ansela and I are here to tell you how we suddenly, maybe accidentally, created our series, and it might be helpful in creating your series if you want to base it on a location. Ansela, come on up. Hi. Wait, we can't hear you.
Okay, I am
Yes.
unmuted now. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Hi, Ansela. So let's start with introducing ourselves. So Ansela and I will talk about our our series that we will be discussing today, and maybe a little bit about why we write romance series. So let's start with you.
Yes, hi. My name is Ansela Corsino. I'm a romance author, as Mina mentioned. I write contemporary romance mostly, and I have one series. So I guess that's what we're talking about now, and it is location based. It's called LA Players. It's a series set in LA. As I like to keep things simple, so the titles of my book, the name of my series, it's there. No one's you're not gonna wonder like what's it about. No, you know what it's about. So right.
And you know where it's at.
Yes, yeah, right. I like to keep things simple. That is my marketing strategy.
Okay, so we'll talk more about that later. Ako naman, my turn. So I have several series actually, but what I will be talking about today is a series called 632 Central. And it is an adult contemporary romance series that is set in a, so these are the books. And it's 4 books and one short story, and it's all set in in a created business district that's a lot like BGC, but it's not BGC. because it has a mall with a skating rink. So yeah. So that is by design a romance series with standalone couples and separate books. And the common thing there is the location. So yeah, let's start talking about uh, the series and why do this. And our first question is, why write a series? Uh, let's talk about Ansela and I. Let's talk about our reasons and why it makes sense for others to do it. How about you start?
We explain ourselves.
We explain our life choices.
Okay. Yes. Why a series? I'm not gonna zoom in on myself anymore. Let's just okay. Why a series? It's a thing with okay. First off, this is not a thing I knew when I started the thing about series in romance. It's something I learned when I wrote my first book. I didn't really mean it to be anything. I just wanted to write it. I put it up on Wattpad, and you're like, okay, I'm writing a story. That's it. And then I realized that, oh, series is a thing. For one thing, it's a good marketing strategy. You when when you read a book, you're gonna want, okay, I want something that's like this, but not the same book, but something similar but different. And that's usually, a continuation. It's like, a spin-off, a sequel. So it's a very good idea to write your romance books in series. And if you notice, the reason why my series is location based is because I did not plan this. Normally, when romance authors plan their series, it's usually same characters, even if it's in the same place, like the same small town, the same city, etc. They usually plan it so you get, they're friends, and then while you're reading it, you their friends show up, and you're okay. The next book is gonna be about this character, the love interest's best friend or the main character's best friend. I did not think of that, so which is why I just stuck to like setting it in the same location. And so yeah, that basically it's a thing in romance. Book series are a thing. That's just why I made my books into a series. I put them together in a series and decided to just not the same characters, but they will be in the same location. So similar world building. You just reuse the world building, whatever.
Yeah, that's the practical answer. No? Since you made the effort to build the world, reuse it naman, di ba? Okay, so for me, why write a series? So ako rin, I didn't start out writing a series. I wrote one book and then had a great response from readers to it and was encouraged to write more. And uh, I ended up, for publishing purposes, grouping together like the first 9 books I ever wrote into a series. Pero ang kalat, like it's not, there was no logic really to how it was just me writing the next book, the next book, the next book. And when you do that, when you write a 9 book series that's very loosely connected, not really, it's hard for new readers to join in, and because they think they have to start from the very beginning, and then I have to tell them that actually you don't have to start from the very beginning because it's barely connected to each other. You can actually start at any point, but it's hard to market it that way because they see that it's a 9 book series, or they see, oh, I have to start with book number 1. So, and then I read Tessa Dare. I started reading Tessa Dare, and she has a series called Spindle Cove, which is a series that's set in one place called Spindle Cove, which and then so I loved it, and I realized now, this actually makes sense. If I love the first book, it means I can read the next one and also love it because the characters will be there, the place is the same. And I thought, this is the easier, more chill, and more practical way to plan a series. Yung because at the very beginning, maybe you haven't decided yet who the characters are, but you can start one by one. So, explain ko lang how 632 Central works. I have a graphic. Pwedeng pa-share ng graphic ko. My very high-tech graphic. So while we're doing that, hello to everyone tuning in. I see people watching on YouTube and on Facebook. Hello, friends. Okay, so this is the high-tech graphic that I made, sort of explaining the community and the business district of 632 Central. So I made this after creating a 9-book series because I realized that, okay, I have to end that series at some point and start fresh and start new and start in a very accessible manner. Yung I wanted to write a series the same way that Ansela said, that this is, this is something that readers like, and this is something that readers can respond to, but make it a manageable number of books. So I planned 632 Central as a 4 or 5 book series. I actually wrapped it up as a 4-book series. Yeah, people keep calling this a murder board. Wag na. It's a thing. Okay. Thank you for the observations. Okay. So when I started planning my next series, I thought I was going to make it easy on myself. And since I don't know yet who will be the characters for all of the books, I'm just going to create a single setting where various people can be present in it and it makes sense, and it can be a fun and it can be like a fun place to set my books. I had wanted to make a figure skater hockey player series. I knew that I wasn't going to create multiple books featuring hockey players and figure skaters, so I wanted my series setting to have a skating rink, but the series will not be all about skating all the time. Um, so this is a place that I've modeled after BGC or Bonifacio Global City, but sort of inserting like Mall of Asia rink or SM Mega Malls rink. So yun, there was some creative world building there, but yun, it's envisioned as that. There are malls. You can there's a sisig place. You can eat really inexpensively, and you can have like a fancy ball, because there is a ball, like there's a scene where there's a fancy ball in a hotel. So it's actually like Manila, where you can do all of these things, but I've compressed them into one district, which is fictional again. And yun, so as I started writing the books, I placed the characters in these different locations within my single setting. I have the mall and the skating rink. I have the MBA school. I have the just various places where they can work and interact. And then when I was having difficulty writing this, I started off with a book about the tour guide. So the tour guide, which is the first book, What Kind of Day? So What Kind of Day actually features a tour guide who uh, tours people through 632 Central. So that was like another trick to familiarize the readers with the setting in case they started with book one. So yeah, but even if they didn't start with book one, it's only a 4-book series, so it's easy to catch up and it's not intimidating. Yeah. So yeah, and so that's my 632 Central series, and it made sense for me to write it that way because I wanted certain things to be present, so I just made up a place and put them all there. Yeah. So our next question for this program is why write a series within a common location? Ansela, why write a series in a common location, or why LA or California, for example?
That's a very good question. so I've lived in I'm Pinoy, so I'm used to a place where I'm used to a country where the climate is more or less the same every year. I'm answering the question why I chose LA. Well, so it's hard to get into the mindset like say if I set it in New York, right? I'm going to have to keep asking myself, wait, how what's the temperature? Does she need to be wearing a coat? Does she need to change or whatever? If it's California, whatever. I mean, state where like was like 0 degrees or negative. It got really really cold, and they started panicking. But at the time I was writing it, it was more or less, you didn't have to think about like snow or whatever or coats, and I just wanted to be free of that. So because I'm not used to it, if you're writing something set in the Philippines, this is not something you think about much. You just expect it to be hot in no matter what day, unless there's a typhoon. So that's why I chose my location. And why write a series within a common location? It's because it's the easiest thing to do if you did not plan your
We keep
series.
coming back. We keep
For
coming
one
back to that.
thing,
No?
that is the yes,
Yes.
it's really the easiest thing because a lot of series are very complicated. They have like family sagas, right? Like you have a huge family, and then you have their friends, and then their cousins, and they're like so like different or whatever. It's very complicated, and these things, these kinds of series need to be planned from the beginning, and if you did not plan, the easiest thing to do is just to set it in the same location. So yeah.
You are
What about
absolutely
you?
right. Yes, that is exactly my answer. Okay, so that's why we separated these episodes into two, because you can definitely plan a series around a group of people, a large group of people, a family, a friend group, a band, and some authors are doing that, but that requires having thought of who they are in the very beginning, which I don't know why I have a hard time doing that, but I cannot, I can world build places, but I cannot like populate a family and a friend group of more than four people. I don't know. Like I cannot.
I mean, one
Uh,
day maybe you will. Yeah, because
with
the thing with
practice.
writing, right? No, the thing with writing, at some point you're gonna be like, there's this
Okay.
thing that I thought I could never do, but you wake up and you're like, you wake up and you choose violence, and you're like, I will try this thing which I thought I could not do. Anyway,
Oo.
I'm just saying.
Sige, thank you for the reminder that it's never, it's never say never, yon. but the thing with this kind of series planning is it is easier, and it's also easy to stop. Like imagine, like if you wanna, thank you for,
They keep mocking my internet access because my internet is
thank
very
you,
sucky right
thank
now.
you to our
I
friends who
used to
are
have the best
supportive of
internet
internet.
ever. I used to have the best internet ever, and then I moved to a building that had no fiber. So I am in hell right now.
Ano, iba, at
And
least
since
ano,
then, that's the irony thing. The irony thing is, since I moved out of my place with fiber into a building with no fiber, Mina has gotten fiber, so now she has like the best
ako
internet.
dati yung pinagdadasal niya yung internet. So, oo. Ngayon better na ako. Oo.
Bakit ganon? Why can't we all have great internet? Kaloka.
So anyway, saying hi to the people in the chat who are praying for for Ansela's internet. Maraming salamat.
Thank you.
So yeah, just to
Yes.
continue, this is exactly the thing with planning a standalone series. That's based on a location is you can also stop at any time. For example, you've had enough. Like that's it. I'm bored now or I wanna move on. You can stop. Yung difficulty kasi with I guess like planning a series with like yun, like five. like five siblings, and then you're going to write a book for each sibling. This also assumes that you are somewhat ready to commit to write the five books, and focus on this for an extended period of time. Uh, and maybe we can, that's a question that we can ask the authors next episode, who have been writing a series based on a set number of characters, right? So how do you cope with scheduling and writing that? But when you're writing something like a setting, you can you can add to it, you can you can stop it at any point, and it's fine if you're ready to move on to a different location. That's what I found, because I originally started my series thinking it would be five books, and then when I wrote the fourth and I felt that I've said everything that I wanted to say in this particular setting, and I wanted to create a new one. I said, okay, that's it. Four na lang. And it's okay. You can wrap it up fairly easily. And it's just what it is. And then another reason why um, I would recommend writing a series and also planning it as a series and maybe setting it in a common location is that everything you do regarding publishing can sort of fit, because you have the look in mind, you have the that's why I love the for example, I love the cover design for the 632 Central books,
I know, it's
because
such a lovely design.
yeah, right. It's so nice. No, because uh,
It's so
because
cute.
at the very beginning, we thought about what the look for the entire series would be, and it was based on having decided what the setting is and kind of what the theme of the books are. So it's consistent. So every time, and then it's easier because it was like some work in the beginning, but every time there's a new book, we just decide on the color essentially, and and the look of the pose for the photos. So yun. It's for me it's easier when you've decided on a series at the beginning, and then it's also parang low maintenance if it's a setting rather than a set group of characters. Yan.
We have
Okay.
to
Have
add
we?
we have to add pala. I don't know if we've touched on this, but there is a difference between a romance series and, like, say, sci-fi series. Like, you have
Mhm.
something, for example, Star Wars. When you have the trilogy, you have like three trilogies now or something. But they're all connected. Like, you can't just like watch the second one and you're good, right? You have to watch all three of them. Or, I mean, if you're enjoying it, yeah, you're gonna want to watch all three of them to get the entire arc. So that's science fiction. With romance, you're expected to have the HEA at the end of the book. So when you say a romance series, this is I'm sure a lot of, like, if you're a romance author, you know this. So when you say a romance series, it doesn't mean like there is an over. That doesn't necessarily mean there is a series arc, that in which case you have to read all the books. It's each book is usually a standalone. Like, you can read a book on its own, and you're fine. You can skip the second book, you can skip the first book, or the you'll still be able to get a complete story, because the each book has one couple, and each book is one
It's still
story.
it's still a
Yeah.
complete romance, even if you just read
Yes.
one book. And then you get like a fuller experience if you read the other books in the series. And then you get all the
Yes.
in jokes, and you get to see them make cameo appearances. Ganon. So it's a good publishing project, especially if you're self-publishing. Like as Ansela and I do. So it's an easy product to market. It's an easy product to design for. It's easy to get it out there, and this is pretty much low maintenance because you can almost like accidentally create a series
Yeah.
just by.
Oh, and especially like with the way publishing works. This is indie publishing. Okay, so if your series is trad pub, your publisher will take care of it. But if in indie, like, say you publish on Amazon, Amazon will KDP, they'll ask you, okay, is this book part of a series? So when somebody clicks on it on the on the Amazon website, they will be able to see that, oh, there are other books in this series. So they are aware. And like for example, something with Scribd.com, as soon as
Yeah.
you finish one book, at the end, Scribd will say, this is the next book in the series. So would you like to read that next? So if it's if your books, say you have 5 books and they're all in a series, it's less effort for you to market it, because what they usually say is you just need to market the first book or the most recent book that came out. And as soon as you get people in with the first book, tuloy-tuloy na yan. It's like you don't have to do anything anymore. The platform will usually take care of it. So it's the same case with say something like the Radish app, the Radish fiction app. They you can group your you can group your books in a series in one place. So tuloy-tuloy yung reading. You can just, as soon as somebody finishes, oh, the next, we call it seasons. The next season is here. So would you like to read that too? Ganon.
Oo nga, actually, I saw the transition on Radish from like books to seasons, and then it suddenly makes our book series seem like Netflix. Just
Yes, because
binging something
because
on Netflix.
the people running it now used to work in like in television. So
Okay.
if you notice how, yeah, and if you notice the it's sort of like that. If you notice if you read on that platform, that's why they're called episodes now, and you have seasons, because and you have like, so you end up with stories with a story that has like 1,000 episodes. So
I know.
okay.
Yeah. I wish I had, and then suddenly I wish I had more to my series than just 4 books, diba? But I still recommend that if you're doing like not serial publishing, but just publishing, and you're just starting out, diba? And you want it low maintenance, yon. Just try creating a series based on a location, para you can just stop and then move on to something else later. So I just want to say hello to people who joined the chat. Hello, hi Emerald, and hello everybody. We just have one more thing to talk about, and then we can answer your questions. So please leave your questions in the chat if you want us to answer them in the Q&A. So next question, Ansela. Uh, we covered a little bit of this earlier, but if you wanna lead into tips for authors who maybe a tip for authors who might have who might be thinking of doing something very similar to what you've done.
Okay. Plan it a little. Since you're okay, if you're about to start a series, it's always a good idea to plan it, especially if you're a plotter, if you tend to outline your books or plot it out ahead of time, which I do not. But if you do, that's great. I recommend it, even though it is not something that I do. Your life's gonna be so much easier than mine. But if, as the same way you plot out your books, your stories, or each book, you can also plot out your series. Like even if it's location based, I actually like the series that Mina mentioned earlier, Tessa
Spindle
Dare's
Co.
Spindle
Spindle
Cove.
Co.
Yeah, that was actually the first Tessa Dare books I've read, because you
Same.
influenced me, Chas.
Yeah.
That's where I started, and it's location based, so each book has its own couple and HEA, but there, since it's in the same location, she put in so much like details that anytime you read the book, you get curious about stuff that keeps recurring with each other, with each book that comes after. So that is actually like one of the fun things about reading a series. Inside jokes, running jokes, uh, like random characters that they don't have their own story, but you like it whenever they show up, stuff like that. So yes, but from experience, the a location based series, my tip would be use you make a series based on the location. If you did not plan your series, if you wrote a book and said, this world building was so much work, so let's reuse it and just make or if it in case it gets popular, you know and in case it gets popular and you decide to cash in on it, why not? So location based, making the series location based is always a good idea. And by the way, series, it's not a trend, it's not a new, it's series have always been a thing, with especially with romance, and actually with a lot of genre fiction. Like the people, the authors, especially the indie authors who are making like so much coin right now, it's because of their series. That is one of the things they tell you. So it very highly recommend that you make write your books in series, says plural of series. So there.
Cool. Yes, thank you. So for me naman, my tip for authors who might have similar plans is, I think, so as we said, this is the way that you do a series if you're not sure if you're gonna write a series. But my suggestion is, create a rich location. Rich meaning there's a lot that you can do in your location. There's enough diversity in the characters. You can really interact with a lot of people. It's there's a lot of opportunity for people to do stuff. I write books set in the Philippines, so it's so dense. I mean, our setting is so dense. There's a lot going on. There's a lot I can talk about. So it's a very rich location for me to write romance, and I love it. So yun. But what I did, because I wanted to do skating and hockey, is I had to like take control of a rink and be able to use it however I want. So that was so so yun. So my tip is yun, create when you start writing a book that might become the first of a series, make sure that your setting is something exciting. Is There's a lot going on in your setting. There's a lot of events, there's a lot of people, so that you have a lot of options moving forward if you have the time and the energy to write a series. Next book. Yeah. So that's my suggestion, because that's what happened with me. But yeah, I did not plan it very well, so I just kept writing and writing without a common theme, and yeah. So that's my suggestion. Make the setting your common theme if you do not know yet what you're going to do next, or what you're going to do next. So, hi, we have some questions in the Q&A. So let's get to them. Thank you so much. Sige, just drop the questions, and let's hope Ansela's internet uh, gets through. Oh no. Almost. Okay, there you go.
Okay, I just actually wanted to add to what Mina said before we go to the next question. Sorry about my internet, I had to reset it. One of the
Not a
reasons
problem.
why, yeah, because Mina mentioned about like make your settings rich and whatever, and you do set your stories in the Philippines, in Manila, around it, you know, and but Manila is actually a good place because it's very dense, like you said, a lot of people. And the reason why I chose LA is also because of it's a big city. I mean, you have it's not just because it's not just the LA city; it's also a county, which is like enormous. Like in fact, the third book in the series. There are only three books in the series. The third book, the Billionaire's Game. I said it in Hollywood because that is part of LA. I thought it was like it's one of those things where I've never worked in showbiz, but I'm gonna try this. because I have this fascination with how movies are made. So So the thing with setting it in an urban area or some place where it's so diverse, like I can have like three Asians hang out together and it's not unusual, right?
Mhm.
And you can have half your cast of characters are queer and it's normal, it's fine, it's not why is that? It's like of course this is that's actually my life. So so it's easy it was easier for me to mirror what I experienced in real life. So that is the last in the tip section
Mhm.
of this program. Okay, so questions.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a question from Paolo. Thank you for this great question. Are there locations that are hostile to the romance setup? Or can you make any location romance habitable? So I saw this question like before we put it up here, and I was thinking that there. I think if you study writing, you will encounter people who will tell you that romance is not appropriate for certain locations or with certain people because uh, you will be told that this is like it's not important like they will this is like the kind of thinking that will tell somebody that you should study first or think about where your next meal is coming from rather than romance. And a lot of that is really interesting because in real life uh, we can worry about any number of things at the same time. and and you and what's happening now is the best books that I've read actually are books that have taken characters who are worried about more important things, quote unquote, and still have romance. And I think actually it is a more compelling story and just a more interesting book because these are people who deserve the kind of like the romance book that you write for this kind of person is, diba, they want to be this is the kind of person who uh, who has to be or sobrang deserve niya yung masabihan siya na you are important, you are loved, you are you're doing well, you're doing the right thing, 'di ba? So I think actually yes. Like just thinking something like Bridget Bautista's Yumi US, that kind of book which for which is set in uh which is set in Manila, but like not the tourist shiny Manila of other rom-coms or books. It is it's kind of dire and kind of yung people living paycheck to paycheck, but at the same time it's romance and it's telling people that you're important and you deserve love also. And yun, so parang I think yes, pretty much any after thinking about that and be and actually reading books like that, I realized ko that yes, any location can be made romance habitable, but not everyone has the talent maybe or skill or sensitivity to write that kind of story yet. But just knowing that it's possible, I think will lead us to be able to do that better and really write the kind of stories that people deserve. Yeah, I think.
I mean, they've set romance series in space. Have you seen the places where we have, of course, we have the historical romances. We have like, Highlander romances. There's also romance in space and a lot of people love that. So don't let that stop you.
Yeah,
Like,
or you mentioned historical romances. I think because we have like a lack of historical romance for
I
the
know
Philippine
that
setting,
hurts my
diba?
soul.
I know it's like and I started reading historical romance supposedly in settings and time periods na supposedly it's difficult to imagine parang people enjoying their lives, but they are actually really good stories. Like you know, read anything by Beverly Jenkins, read anything by uh like Courtney Milan ever since, but more recently Courtney Milan is more like mas obvious yung ngayon what especially as she's writing POC and historical romances. So it's just it's possible. It's we don't actually have to prescribe. We don't have to believe that that it was such a terrible time that we cannot possibly write a romance in it. Or but at the same time, we can also learn more about the time so we don't diminish yung difficulty when we write the book. So trabaho lang, yeah.
Yeah, I wish we had more historic, not just romance though. I wish we had more like like genre books, fiction, historical. Because most of what I know about, I mean, of course, not everything is super accurate, but I have a more, you more or less get a sense of what it was like, right? In like 2 centuries ago or whatever. But like say in the Philippines, we have a lack of it. So, and I feel terrible because I'm like, what I'm when I'm binging, say Agatha Christie,
Mhm.
like there are details about their life during the war because I think let's see, one of her detectives was during the First World War, and Miss Marple I think was during the Second World War. But like,
Oh,
do you have
okay.
details about what it was like to live through a war just by reading the books? And I'm so annoyed that we don't have that, you know. And I don't mean like stuff that I don't. There's probably some fiction or be like short stories, but something fun naman. Something romance, something
At
murder
yun, 'di
mystery.
ba? 'Di ba, yun eh. It's actually the formula of being of fitting the genre, meaning it's still a romance, it's still a mystery or whatever it is, but it's set in our time and our or it's set here in our history. But also doesn't parang gloss over anything. Yung things are we can we're still aware of who the oppressors are and who yun, yung awareness lang.
Always be
Yun.
one of the weirdest things about since I've started writing romance books is the weird awareness of who the oppressors
Yeah, you kind of can't unsee it when when you've been told. So parang, okay, ganito
are.
talaga. Ayun.
Yes, we should put that on
Yeah.
a shirt. Always know who the oppressors are.
Ang dami nating shirt. Ayun. Do we have
So many
thank you, Paolo,
shirts.
for the question. Parang
We
sarap
have other
isipin.
questions, I think.
Yeah, if we have other questions, please drop them in the chat.
Yeah, drop them in the live chat.
In terms of setting description and world building, what are the essential tips towards creating locations? Thank you. Do you have something for this, Ansela?
Well, it depends if, well, all right. Even if you set it in an actual place, like for instance, I think you and me both, we set it in a more or less place it's based on an actual place in reality,
Mm-hmm.
but we make up the names of like the like for instance, like in my case, it's LA, and I do mention actual like cities or whatever, but say the name of of a club, I made that up. Names of restaurants, I make that
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Mostly because I don't want it to be, you know, like maybe in 10 years that restaurant is no longer there.
Oo nga eh.
And
Lalo na
yeah,
ngayon
it's
at
stuff
this
like
time,
that.
di ba? So many things
Yeah.
have
Especially
become.
yeah, especially something like a club.
Mhm.
Those things don't last very long. So I just invent one of the common things in all my three books is at some point there is a scene in that club. I call it Key Six. So there's always a scene in that club. So it's one of the things that that is common in all the books. But yes, one of the tips that I can say is you can make them, you can mention actual places and people, but it's also fun to make stuff up, like a restaurant that doesn't actually exist. But you can base it on an actual restaurant. That's fine. So like I have a lot of like a hotel or whatever. It's I mean it doesn't exist in the real world. Then I name it myself, but it's based on a thing that exists in the real world. It makes it easier. So
Yeah, yun din yung style ko. I take a real place, but I rename it most of the time so that I can have more control over what happens there, and people don't need to fact check me and say that it's this building is only X number of floors, ganon. But I guess yung creating locations, there is there is a large scale location which is Manila that I say is Manila all the time. I don't create a different city in the Philippines. What I rename or parang rearrange or move around will be very small places like a restaurant or a school or a and it's always based on something real. So but manipulated in a way. So yeah, I think you will want to create something your I think you will want to create something yourself based on a real thing if you really want control over the location. If you really want if you really want control over the location, if you really want to say if you really want to involve people who work there as your characters, so might as well rename it and call it your own, even if it's based on another place, and then you'll have more freedom pa to do stuff there. But because yung advocacy ko rin kasi is I want people to know what Manila is like. There are very specific things that I don't rename. So I actually do describe. I do say that it's set in Manila. I do say that it's set in the Philippines, and there are things that I describe that's real, like like the traffic, like the like how chaotic it is and how messy yun. I keep certain things real because that's the intention. I want to show that this is what it is. So uh yan. So if I am giving a tip on creating locations, yan, what is the advocacy? What is it that you want to say with your setting? And then if you want more control over it, then rename it. Yeah. Yan.
I have another tip I want to add. I noticed that readers like it when you're very specific with whose phone
Hello,
call is
did
that?
you? Sorry. Oh my god. A tita
No
tried to
mine, is
call
it?
me in the middle of a live stream. Oh my
Are
god.
you gonna take it?
My god. Okay.
Maybe
Ansela,
your tita is watching you
can you?
right now. Okay, maybe it's an emergency. Go take it muna.
Yeah, please take me out muna and handle the chat.
Hi. Okay, so I'm gonna vamp. I have sorry, my hair is a mess. I'm gonna vamp right now. One another tip I can give you with world building. It's very nice to be you don't have to be very specific with everything in a location, but you can be specific in like certain things. Like for example, if your story is set in a city, you can mention like the streets where they had to travel to get to some place. For some reason people like that. I do have comments because I post my stories on Wattpad and Radish, and so people leave comments and which I read, and they're like, oh, that's the route I take to go to school or something, because especially if there are people who do live in that location, they kind of like it when you get really specific with some things. It doesn't have to be everything, just maybe one or two things. And yes, so while Mina, are you ready to come back?
Hi. Oh my God. So my tita,
Is
sorry, my
everything okay?
tita. No, my just so you know that it's not an emergency. My tita called and said your puto is here. Please pick it up. Sabi ko,
Oh
can
my
you not?
god, that's such a tita thing.
Sabi ko, thank you so much, but can you not call muna? I'm in the middle of a live stream. I love my tita, but
Oh my god, this is such a tita moment. And it's
anyway,
food.
thank you so much for
Thank you,
covering.
tita.
And thank you, tita. Okay,
Ang sweet
sorry.
naman. Okay, so yes, I
Thank you.
do we have any other questions unless you want to add something more to
So,
this?
yes, yes. Okay. um, yeah, so thank you for adding to that. But yun, that's the main thing that we wanted to say because somebody requested that we talk about how to build a series. And yun, we will talk about the other kind of building a series next episode, which is on November 20. We have a new question from
Yes,
Denise.
from Denise.
What are your thoughts? Hi, Denise. What are your thoughts on using real locations alongside fictional locations? I think I think there's a lot of value in using real locations. So I actually had like a conversation with a former publisher who wanted real locations talaga. And I understand what the allure of that is because it really strengthens your sense of place, yung nung book mo. And it becomes like a thing, like people can go on a tour, 'di ba? Yung if your book is that memorable or the thing that you did was that fun, people can actually be inspired to go to the real location and do the thing that you that you wrote
That
about in the book.
that is a thing that's very common in TV shows.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah,
And that's it, diba?
there is a place in Japan that suddenly had like a whole buttload of tourists because of a Korean drama that got popular.
And
So
here, even here, I think in like local teleseries, like when they very prominently feature a place, like a real place and not a fictionalized version of a place, people suddenly it attracts visitors and an entire different income stream. So there's value in it, and definitely if someone wants to make money, that's something they'll suggest that you do. And but yun, ang mangyayari, baka yun nga, like you might not have as much control over the location tuloy because suddenly, 'di ba, you're very much tied to the reality of how far things are from each other or bawal palang gawin to dito or or bawal or hindi pala pwede yung sinabi mo na gagawin doon. So suddenly you have to make a decision if you're going to really just go fictional or explain to your readers na this is a thing that can only happen in the book ha parang ganun. And then of course when you
see,
go
this is why we
fictional
just make up places so we don't have to answer
exactly.
these questions.
So when you go fictional naman and then you say it's this much distance from here to here, that's it. No one can contradict you and you can really control your story that way. And then you can have people but yun lang, there's not that extra factor where the readers can feel that they can participate, di ba? Na parang they can go to a real place or do a real thing. And yun, so sayang. And then sometimes nga, if they don't think about it too much, even if you've based your fictional thing on a real place, they won't exactly make the connection. They think you just made up a place and it doesn't exist in real life. So parang sayang yung added experience. So yun, maybe tuloy you need to like maybe in your author's note say that this thing is based on this place. Maybe in your maybe in a blog post explain that there's a thing you can try but somewhere else there's a similar thing you can do but somewhere else instead parang ganon but yeah I mean there's value to doing both And it really depends on yon, like how much control you want over the thing that you're writing. Yan.
This is not gonna happen if you set your romance in space, but it's something
No
that's
control.
here. By the way, Google Maps is very useful if you want. Especially, I use it to know like the traffic, the traffic situation. Especially if you, it's usually if you're writing a setting in a city, because some places will take you anywhere from 15 minutes. Sometimes depends on the time of the day. It could be 15 minutes. It could be an hour to get there. So you have to know like how long it takes to get from one place
Right.
to another. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much places you can, so many places you can invent in, especially if it's a real city like Manila. You're gonna have to, you know, like the laws of physics, and anybody who lives in Manila will know. All right, so it took an hour to get from here to there, and people from Manila will be yes, yes, I understand.
I
Because
have
that is the
ano,
thing.
I have a thing that I did sa one of my books. Parang they a shirt was printed during a museum trip in the morning, and then dineliver yung shirt to our restaurant in QC at lunchtime. And then my editor asked me, posible ba to? Like, isn't that too soon? And I said, posible yan.
Yeah,
Malapit
because
lang yung.
it's just a
And then
shirt,
my
right?
messenger, and my
Uh-uh.
messenger na nakamotor. Yun. But see, we actually care about this, and we actually worry about it. So a lot of authors actually will not really think about it, but when you start working with editors and when you start publishing to readers who will either believe everything that you say or question everything that you say, it's good to be thinking about this, kasi it's nice, for example, for a reader to know that you cared enough to put in that level of detail and to do your research. Yan. Thank you.
Yes.
Oo, kung
Thank
motorcycle
you,
delivery,
Denise.
kaya talaga. Oo. Thank you for the question, Denise. Um,
All right,
do you
next
have another
question.
question? Yeah.
Yes.
From Jella. Hello, Jella. Does it date your book if you use real life locations? Yes, absolutely. Real life locations, real life apps, real real life anything. Ang hirap. I I actually tried to get out of this by renaming as much as I could, but it's hard din kasi when you rename too many things, suddenly the connection is gone. Like, so ngayon, my strategy is just to use certain things. I will just use the name, and and if I need to make a new edition, I'll change it in the future. Yun na lang yung gagawin ko. We can do that, but because I self-publish and I control all my editions, I made the decision to not worry about this and just edit if I have to. How about you, Ansela?
You mean it does it date your book if it's like a location that no longer exists at some
Yeah,
point,
yeah,
maybe, or it
yeah.
changed, like a mall, for example. Like when you wrote your book, it was 3 floors, and suddenly, after 5 years, it suddenly has six floors, something like that. Yeah, probably. The thing is, it's not just location that you we had to think about, like with regard to how your book gets dated, after like 5 years, 10 years. The biggest problem was really technology.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do we mention this app? Do we mention this phone? Because in 2 years, this app might not exist. The problem is if you don't mention any of it, or you don't use it in the plot or the events, it's weird. Like, okay, uh, for example, I'm reading books that I don't know when they were published, but things happen, and I'm like, why couldn't you just call them?
Yeah.
Or why couldn't you just get on the internet? And it's weird, right? Because what year was what year did this happen? Did they not have smartphones then? So, just your book will
Any
get
kind of
dated no matter what. So might as well just embrace it. You know how like Clueless is forever? Clueless is an evergreen, and there's like so many like pop
dated
culture
thing.
reference in it.
Yeah.
Like the datedness is kind of the point.
Mhm.
So it will, you could, that is one way to go about it. Like, yes, use all the present day things that are there. And if somebody reads it in 10 years and maybe they'll read it because of that, because it gives them a sense of what it was like in,
During that year.
before it started snowing
Yeah.
in Luzon. Who knows, right? I keep thinking about climate change now. I hate it. I have to think about this.
That's I yeah. The, somebody commented in one of my earlier books. There was a storm in, I think, March or April, and somebody said, "But it doesn't storm in the Philippines in March or
Oh,
April." Tapos ako, it does.
yes.
It does now. I mean,
We had to move our, because I think, like, I give this as a like a really good example, my favorite example. Pride March in the US and around the world is usually, I think, June,
mhm,
thereabouts. Sorry, I'm not. I just go. I can never remember what month it is, but it's around that time. But in the Philippines, when we started doing it, it would use we'd have it in December, because June, but the usual month for Pride March is usually typhoon season.
that's right.
Now
Uh-huh.
the problem is, there also typhoons in December now. So
It's
I think we're just doing
actually,
it twice a
yeah.
year. I think we're just doing Pride March twice a year now. So like, just attend which one is more if you are able, which one you're able to attend. So again, your book is gonna get dated anyway.
I
Might as
think
well just stick to
another thing
whatever
is
works for you.
like brands. I brands. uh, I read the Gossip Girl books like late in the game, like after they had become popular already. And when you read them, there's a lot of very real locations and also very real brands, and it really, it's very interesting because it does give you the feel of somebody who's there and can name drop people and things and places, but also even just a few years away from it, you know that it's so dated na. So yun. So may mangyayari talagang ganon. But it's really satisfying in the moment when you're reading it and it's very current. Yun lang, a few years later, there is a there is gonna be an effect. So, but again, if you're self-publishing, you can decide to change it, or just keep it as a time capsule of of the year
I
that it
prefer
was
the time
released.
capsule thing. Yeah, I prefer that. I don't know. It's just, it may be just me, but I do like the time capsule thing. I want to be able to read the book that was like written in, say, 2002, and like everything is 2002.
It's
That
so
it's 2002.
2002.
So yeah, it's fine. Imagine having to update every like 5 years. So exhausting. Imagine if you have
I
20
know.
books.
Oo
No.
nga. Anyway. Do we have another question?
uh,
Um,
do we? If you have any other questions, I think somebody sent one earlier before the live stream. I did not
that was,
make a
oh,
banner.
it was a question
Sorry.
about like tips for writing location. It was from Instagram, and I think it was like tips for writing a location-based series if you don't travel much.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was from Instagram. We don't have it up here, but yun. I that was interesting, and I thought about it for a while, but actually ang fun nga yun eh. I think the point of writing a location-based series is again, because my earlier recommendation is write something location that's rich and there's a lot going on. So even if you don't travel much, especially now, you can either tell us about where you are, or write about the place that you want to go to, and and be able to immerse yourself in all of this research about that place and all these other places that you want to go to. So that can be like a fun writing project, even if we're not traveling as much as we used to. Ganon. And another thing is, like ako, I write about Manila. I write about like when I go out, that's the setting. And yeah, for better or worse. I mean, that's the setting of my books because I want readers to find out about how we live and how different types of people interact with the city and the kind of city that we live in. So I actually would like more people to write about their hometowns and their communities and their cities in a way that only you can tell kasi you live there. So yeah. So that's my suggestion for people who are thinking of writing a location-based series but don't travel much.
It's actually
How about
pretty
you?
it's actually easier, right? If you don't travel and you're just gonna write a series that's based in one place, because you're just in one place. You just have to think about, one place. You don't have, I don't know, like say a group of friends who are living in different parts of the country, and you're going to have to switch. Actually, if it's just one location, that's better if you don't travel. So yeah, and it's always good to just write about the place you live. Or actually, I've been thinking about this. I was thinking if I could write something set in my my hometown, which I have not been to in like more than a decade, I think.
Which is
And
share what you're.
Zamboanga City. I'm sharing Zamboanga
Yes.
City.
Oh.
I haven't been there
Yes,
in so long.
please.
I had to ask
OMG.
my friend, dude. I had to ask my friend, do we have taxis now? And then,
Grabe naman.
because
Anong
yes, it's
sabi
grabe.
niya? Anong
Meron
sabi
na.
niya?
It's
Okay.
we have Grab taxis now. There are about 300 in the whole city, and it seems to be enough. It's
Okay.
enough to
See,
service the whole town.
and I
So
want
yeah, yeah.
I want that, and I want people to, I mean, if people are asking, diba, because they think that they need to set it in like some sort of commercial or marketable place, uh I we wanna encourage you to not think about that. It doesn't have to be like the usual places like Makati or BGC or whatever
Yeah,
or
people are probably
whatever
sick of actually in
or
the like something like
Boracay.
the US and in like
Yeah.
I don't know with Pinoy readers because we don't have much of that yet. But in the US, people love small town series, like a series set in some small town in like the Midwest or whatever.
Mhm.
Not that is not set in a city. That is a specific subgenre of romance, right? Like
Yeah,
romance
yeah.
series set in a small town. Like, and my town is very small. Like the current mayor was my high school English teacher. That is how
Okay.
that is how small
You'll know
small my town
everybody.
is.
But that's
so
something
so
that,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, so in romance class we actively encourage authors who are part of the community to write stories set in not Manila. So pretty much just spread out, go
It's
everywhere.
it's like the colors of the book covers are like, we are banning blue for this year. Are we gonna like, oh, I banned nobody write about
May
Manila
ganun.
for
Di ba may ganun
2022?
for a while? Oo. Actually, kaya I stopped my series kasi I didn't wanna write na about Manila. So, parang after parang 13 books, parang tama na. Gano'n. And then,
Sige. Let's
but see,
a romance series set in space, Chas. I'm sorry, I
yan
keep
lang.
bringing that up.
Ah, biglang ikaw yung magsulat niyan. And, ah,
No.
it's just something that we want to encourage, just in case somebody listening to this or watching this thinks that there is a right wrong place to set a romance. We actually think that as long as you as long as you can like build the world and make it fun enough and have stuff happen there that can be like the killing romance that everyone will enjoy. It I think can be set everywhere or anywhere, or especially not Manila. Yeah. Said the person who wrote Manila story. So
Oh my god. Paolo. Wow.
uh,
No. I don't want
but
to get
see, we
into
don't.
that.
Do we want this?
Nobody
It's
wants this. I don't think anybody
nobody
wants
wants
this.
this. No, somebody wants it, but not us.
Oh my god.
Uh-huh.
But yes, this is a thing that anyway.
Mhm. So I
So
hope
so yes.
everyone, yeah, I hope before we continue, I hope everyone subscribes to our YouTube channel.
Yes, please.
We have a project. We have a project that we wanna do next next and put it on YouTube, and we would be may comment di pa. And we would
Is this a pun? I'm
and we would love to have more it will be great for the artists that we will invite to be part of this if we had more subscribers to our YouTube. So if you are not subscribed yet, please subscribe, and we can have a lot of fun with this next project that we're gonna do. So yeah, anything else? Any last tips on the topic, Ansela?
I can't think of anything, but yeah, do a series. It's a thing. It like it will help sell your other books, and but marketing wise, it's a very good idea. So
Yes, thank you,
and
and
and there's world,
I
and
agree.
even if you and even if you people say like there's no world, some people think that there's no world building in like contemporary stories or whatever. There's a lot of world building even if you set it in a current time in a place that exists. You will still have to do world building. So I mean, you're gonna make an effort for one book, make a series out of it. So
Yeah,
and
and
plan it if
please
you
let us
can.
know. Yeah, please let us know if you've started
But if you're
writing.
lazy, just set it in one location. So so much better,
Actually,
so much easier.
so if you've started writing anything based on what we've talked about, please let us know. So you can just uh, comment or tag us in a post. And we will continue this discussion about creating a romance series on November 20. Uh, for that episode, we will talk about creating a romance series where it's based on a friend group or a family, and we will have authors Tara Frejas and Jay Itria on the panel. So
It's very
please,
meta that the that our episodes about series is also a series.
yeah, yes. See, it's so
I see
profound
what you did there.
because there's so much we could talk about. Yeah, and I didn't want it all compressed in one episode because there's so many ways that we can talk about this. So yeah, and so
If you
we
have any
passed
more
1 hour.
questions,
If you have any more
we would
questions, get in touch with us. We're here on YouTube at kilig.pub/YouTube. Romance Class Books is on Twitter at Romance Class BKS. We're on TikTok now. Romance Class Books on TikTok. So follow us on TikTok also. And yeah, so we have more stuff going on here on YouTube next. So if you're subscribed, you will get notified when new videos are coming up. So thank you so much to everyone who is here in the comments. Hello, friends, and thank you for thank you for sending your questions, and we hope that we answered them. And see you online.
bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. Bye bye.